Alarm! Alarm! They're releasing the new class designs already! Quick, I must finish this series so I can look at the shiny new toys! Sup, Punions, Chris Punking here, and welcome to DnDesign, the show where I look at D&D class design and roast it, or praise it, based on my own biased opinions. On today's episode, the Monk. The Monk is the martial arts class, the one who fights with their hands and feet. They punch so fast your eyes can't keep up. They wear no armor because their own evasiveness is more than enough to protect them. An awesome fantasy to tap into. Let's see how they implemented it into the mechanics. Level 1, D8 hit die. D8? You're a melee puncher. Why only a D8? I mean, at least it makes the monk special. Kind of like the barbarian with his D12. But the monk's just special for the wrong reasons. No armor and shield proficiencies. Only a handful of weapon proficiencies, none of which are heavy weapons, so you can't use Great Weapon Master. Dexterity and strength save proficiencies. Okay, a lot of people look at this and wonder why the monk doesn't get dexterity and wisdom save proficiencies instead, because those are his two primary attributes. The reason is actually pretty simple. The game distinguishes between the big saving throws, dexterity, constitution, and wisdom, which come up a lot, and the small saving throws, strength, intelligence, and charisma, which come up a lot less. Each class is proficient in one of the big saving throws and one of the small ones. The monk, therefore, cannot be proficient in both dexterity and wisdom, which are both big saves. I mean, in theory. In practice, we can give the fighter additional ability score increases at random levels. We can also give the monk 2 big saving throw proficiencies. Would not have broken the game, but whatever. Unarmored defense. Your armor class is 10 plus your dex plus your wisdom, if you don't wear armor. I really like this feature in terms of flavor. I said this during my barbarian video as well. I want more classes to get this, so I can play a paladin who doesn't wear armor but instead just uses his charisma to evade attacks. Same for bards. That would be really awesome to deliver on the swashbuckler fantasy with funny quips being thrown about. And it doesn't have to look the same for every class, as is proven by this monk feature. Compared to the barbarian, the monk version of unarmored defense sucks. I mean, barbarians get to use shields, while monks don't. And their armor class calculation uses constitution instead of wisdom. Let me ask you this. Why does the monk need wisdom? Well, it's for unarmored defense, and the monk's wisdom only comes into play for his key save DC, which, depending on your subclass, might only affect Stunning Strike, an ability you get at level 5. And even then, I argue it's not a big impact. So the monk is now stuck needing dexterity for all of his stuff, constitution because the D8 hit die is really messing him up, and also wisdom, but only for his armor class and nothing else. Like, if you make a monk with a higher wisdom than dexterity, you get nothing out of it. People make paladins with higher charisma than strength because that class rewards you for doing that. This feature makes the monk rely on wisdom, but the rest of the class does barely anything with that stat. It just feels bad. Martial arts. You make unarmed strikes with dexterity. Thank God. In Pathfinder 1st edition, the monk used strength for his attacks. Imagine needing another ability score to make a playable character. It was atrocious. Thank God 5e at least removed that burden. Your arm strikes also deal 1d4 damage instead of just flat 1. It's not a lot. It needs to be a bit higher. But I actually don't hate the idea that monks deal a little bit less damage, but just make a bunch more attacks. It takes the idea of punching people, which is probably weaker than with a longsword, and does something cool with it. I mean, potentially. If the monk gets other stuff to facilitate his unarmed strikes, the fact that the d4 is not a massive thing could be mitigated. Also, you can now punch people as a bonus action. This is the 2-weapon fighting style. I mean, everyone can wield a 1d4 dagger in their offhand and attack with it using a bonus action. You just get to add your modifier to that attack. That is exactly what 2-weapon fighting style does. And that's it. Wow. A whole lot of stuff at level 1 that ultimately does absolutely nothing. The biggest problem with the monk is that the concept creates a handicap for the class. You wear no armor, you use no weapons. Ergo, you have no armor class and you deal no damage. In order to make the monk viable, the designers needed to work around those handicaps. This results in the monk not getting features at level 1, but rather game mechanics. Unarmored defense is not a feature as much as it's the game telling the monk, hey, you get to have a decent armor class too. The fighter just gets an armor proficiency and is done with it. Martial arts is not a feature, it's the game telling the monk, hey, you get to roll damage dice too. The fighter just gets a weapon proficiency and is done with it. These look like features because they're listed like such in the class table, But all they do is try to mitigate the monk's self-imposed handicap. And this is bad for two entirely separate reasons, both of which are equally horrendous. The first reason is that the monk gets nothing on top of that. All this level accomplishes is to give the monk an armor class and the ability to roll for damage. Every class that gets armor and weapon proficiencies gets to do those things for free. And those classes then get features on top of those things. There is a reason I normally rush past those things in the beginning of the videos, because it's all not that interesting. But the monk lacks those things, and instead of giving them anything cool, the first level is spent catching up, without giving them any actually interesting features to use. The second reason is that these features don't solve the monk's handicap. 1d4 is not a lot of damage, and adding your wisdom to your unarmored AC does not a tank make. This results in monks being the weakest class in the game. I will link the Trient Monk video where he goes over all the details and the math in the doobly-doo. That leaves the monk in a disastrous position. Your self-imposed handicap leaves every other class with a head start, and the game tries to put you up to speed, but fails on all accounts. But even if it had succeeded, you can't just stop there. Fighters get more than weapon and armor proficiencies at level 1. They get second wind, a feature that they can use. Monks don't. Level 2. Unarmored movement. You move fast. That's nice. I really like this. It has flavor, it has a decent power, but it's also kind of boring. Your number just goes up and that's pretty much it. But I like it. It's good. Key. You have key points equal to your monk level and reclaim all of them on a short rest. As a bonus action, you can do one of 3 things by expending a key. Hey, remember how the only even remotely useful thing the monk did at level 1 was attack as a bonus action? Yeah, let's make this feature conflict with that. Step of the Wind, you can dash or disengage and jump better. Rogues can do this for free. And you need to spend one of your 2 key points on it. Patient Defense, you dodge as a bonus action. I really like this, but considering that you sacrifice half your damage for this because it costs you a bonus action, I really dislike using it. Flurry of Blows, you make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action instead of 1, which would be amazing, but again, you're already making 1 for free. At least it doesn't conflict with your already existing use of bonus actions. It actually makes it stronger, which is why this is my favorite of the 3 level 2 key abilities. You don't feel like you're giving up an attack. You're actually getting more. But a single additional attack for a d4 of damage is still nothing to write home about. And can we talk about the abysmal amount of key that you have? Yes, they come back on a short rest. You know what else comes back on a short rest? Warlock spell slots. Do you know how many slots Warlock has at level 2? Yeah, that's right. The same amount you have. 2! But what about level 3? Now you have more key points than the Warlock has slots. Ignore the fact that they are now second level slots and much more valuable. Guess what a Battlemaster fighter gets? 4 superiority dice at level 3. And he gets them back on a short rest as well. And they do more than your key points do. By level 4, you're now even with the Battlemaster, but your key points are still less useful. Remember when I complained that wisdom does nothing for the monk, and now I'm complaining that there's not enough key? Like every person to talk about the monk ever? Why doesn't your wisdom affect your key point total? This seems like such an easy fix. How did no one think of this when they made this game? Level 3, deflect missiles. This is awesome. A reaction was something that the monk did not have. It also doesn't cost key, at least not unless you want to throw the thing back. It has flavor, it has power without being broken. It's good. I wish it worked on all attacks though. Would not break the game. Trust me. Monastic Tradition, your subclass. I could spend all day roasting these terrible subclasses, but I won't. All I will say is that the Way of Mercy Monk is the only decent one, and the only one I would actually recommend playing. That subclass is actually pretty cool. And then there's my own subclass that I wrote, the Way of the Animal Styles. Link in the doobly-doo. It allows you to change your stance between 3 different animal forms. Each animal modifies one of your 3 basic key abilities and gives you a neat bonus. The snake buffs your Flurry of Blows by letting you make even more attacks, and at later levels you deal poison damage with your strikes. The crane style prolongs the duration of your patient defense, gives you reach, and lets you fly at higher levels. And the tiger makes Step of the Wind not cost key, and instead also gives you a charge attack that increases damage the further you have moved before attacking. As a Kung Fu Panda fan, the animal style monk is such an obvious thing to exist, and I really liked writing it. Hope you give it a read. I think I did a pretty good job with it. Level 4, Slow Fall. It sure is here. I like it. When it comes up, you'll be glad that you have it, but other than that, it's not much to say. Level 5, Extra Attack. Yeah, you get to make more attacks. Such a flavorful ability for the monk. It's so powerful, it perfectly fits the theme of making a bunch of... What? Every martial class gets this? Oh. Oh well. Stunning Strike. This feature is poorly designed, right? Like, can we all agree on that? Because now that you've reached the point where you have a decent amount of key points, and this has no restrictions, you could use your action to make 2 attacks. Your bonus action to use Flurry of Blows, make 2 more attacks, and then spend 1 key point per attack and do a Stunning Strike each. That is 4 con saves against stun. And some people may look at this and say, this is strong. And it is. If you are fighting a single powerful enemy that also has a low Constitution saving throw bonus, and you don't need your key points after this battle because you just spent all 5 of them in a single turn. Because here's the thing, when it comes to taking out multiple targets, you rather turn towards a spellcaster with Hypnotic Pattern or something, right? But it burns through legendary resistances. Right. I'm sure that feels great. You force 4 saves, statistically 1 of them will be high enough to save, and then all you have done is deplete the 3 legendary resistances so the rest of your party can do their cool things. Meanwhile, you are stuck dealing 1d6 points of damage at this point with your fists. Congratulations. You drained the legendary resistances. Did you have fun? I mean, that's a problem with legendary resistances more than anything, right? But even if you land the stun is such an unfun condition, even when it's not used against a PC. The big bad is stunned for a turn or 2 in a row and the party just beats the shit out of them. Is this the finale that you envisioned for your epic D&D campaign? And this is a problem with spell design too. Hypnotic Pattern is not healthy for the game. So what is my point? Stunning Strike is strong. It feels awesome whenever it actually lands, but you won't have a particularly high DC since that is based on your otherwise useless Wisdom stat, and most monsters have high Constitution. It feels awesome when the stun sticks, but it almost never will. And even if it does, you burn through all your ki and now you're left doing barely anything because this class hasn't given you any other tools. At least none that don't use ki. This feature will leave you disappointed, probably more often than not. I don't want to take it away because it feels so cool and iconic, but the way it is now, it just doesn't work. It needs to see changes. Level 6, Key Empowered Strikes. Your fists do magical damage now. Yay. This reminds me, fighters will find +1 swords. You can't find +1 fists. At least you can hurt the werewolf now, but unless your DM has seen my magic item upgrade video, you won't get awesome magical weapons like the other classes. At least if you want to play the fist-fighting monk. Level 7, Evasion. I like this. Very epic and cinematic. I love the image of just deflecting the dragon's breath weapon with your bare palms. Super awesome. Level 10, you're immune to poison and disease. It's good, it's flavorful. Poison comes up a lot. Being immune to it is nice. Level 11, subclass feature. Level 11 is when we get into the 3rd tier of play. Fighters get their 3rd attack, as does Eldritch Blast. Monks get a subclass feature. And since monks have the worst subclasses in the game, they fall even more behind at this point than they already have been falling. And no, slow fall will not help them here. Nothing they get compares to a 3rd attack every turn. Level 13, Tongue of the Sun and blah. Boring, weak flavor feature. I don't hate it, but the monks need something here and they just don't get it. Level 14, Diamond Soul. Proficiency in all saves, and you can spend a key to reroll a save. This is a great defensive feature. I'm not complaining about this, but when other classes are running about shooting rocket launchers and AK-47s, giving the monk a bicycle helmet is welcome, but definitely not enough. Okay, it's probably more like a Kevlar vest. This feature is really strong. Just, you are protecting a class that does nothing. So what if the monk is now stronger defensively? He wasn't gonna do anything anyways. Level 15, Timeless Body. You don't age. Okay, awesome. Another weak flavor feature. Wizards have level 8 spells by this point. You get nothing. Level 18, Empty Body. For 4 key points, you can cast Greater Invisibility without requiring concentration, and you have resistance to all damage while it lasts. This is strong. Oh my god, a strong feature at level 18? Was about time we got one. I mean, I can't even be happy right now because it's just too little too late. I mean, a 4th level spell, yeah. Level 20, Perfect Self. The capstone to end all capstones. I struggle to imagine the level of hatred that Wizards of the Coast must have had for this class when designing it, to come up with an ability this shit for the final level. I mean, if you have no key and roll initiative, you regain 4 key. I want to tear this feature a new one and roast all the ways in which it is bad, but that would be putting more thought and energy into it than anyone did when designing this, so I will just not. The monk is entirely underwhelming. Please, it needs buffs across the board and more cool things that it can do that also don't conflict with each other in terms of action economy. Like, and please make a feature that doesn't require key. Remember last week I made a video for Kraken Week and I was super happy because it would put me out there? I checked the playlist that they made for the Kraken Week. I wasn't in there. Which is fair, I'm just a tiny, tiny little guy. But like, there were other tiny little guys. They were in the playlist. Maybe I should start a villain arc. Villain arc time.